So, Darwin, the first thing I want to talk about with you is starting off with your time out of Southridge High School in Beaverton, and you started playing for Pat Casey and Oregon State. Uh, First off, what was the process like of starting off? You were very good in high school. You led one of your seasons, one of the Southridge High School baseball team to a state title, and then you played for Pat Casey and Oregon State. First, what was the process like from transitioning of playing in high school to playing for the Oregon State baseball team?
I think for any student athlete, that transition is tough as a freshman. You're getting your feet wet in college. Everyone knows what it's like to be, free, have a little bit of freedom, time on your hands. And to make things tougher for me, I had an arm injury where, I'm a freshman, I'm a shortstop, I'm trying to, show the upperclassmen that, I can play, I belong here, but I couldn't throw. So, that was kind of a pickle for me, but luckily, I played well and I showed the upperclassmen that I belong, and they weren't just giving me the shortstop position for nothing. So, there's a lot that goes into that. I mean, when you're a freshman, you have to, meet teammates, make new friends. There's new housing. The situations are crazy. So it's definitely an interesting time. But it was an amazing time for sure.
During your time at Oregon State, what were some of the things that you learned on and off the field from Pat Casey, the Oregon State manager? What were some things that you learned from him?
The biggest thing I learned from him were a few things. One of them was loyalty. The players that didn't get along with Pat Casey were the players that he felt, in my opinion, didn't care about the game as much as he did. I mean, simply, he's the manager, you're the player. The players should care about the game. They should care about their work. They should want it as much as the manager or more. So it was really easy to get along with Case. You just had to want it. You had to be hungry, and so I learned a lot about loyalty and family and trust. That was really what he stressed. And then perfection. How to be perfect. I was always in my career striving to be perfect, because when we did a first and third or a rundown drill with no base runners, if you threw the ball away, you were off the field. If you throw the ball away with no base runners, once you get into a weekend game, all of a sudden there's a base runner, you're going to throw the ball away. So, when the drill calls for perfection, you better be perfect. And, I learned a lot of those things from him.
The few years that you played with Oregon State are easily some of the most memorable in Oregon State's baseball history, 2005 to 2007, getting to the postseason in all 3 years, including winning 2 College World Series titles in 06 and 07. In your opinion, what was the most memorable moment from your time at Oregon State?
Jeez. You just told me that those 3 years were, crazy, right? And now what's my one moment? I guess that's actually pretty easy. So there was a couple. The first one was in 2005, getting to Omaha. When we won that regional, to get there, the super regional, it was a feat. It was something that we didn't think was possible. The gates hadn't been opened yet. So for us, that was super special. We dogpiled before we even went to Omaha. So, after that, the next best moment for me was winning in 2006. Obviously, 2007 was special. I was a junior. I was more of an upperclassman. I had more of a, I guess I had a big role on all the teams, but you're more of a leader as a junior. There's no one that's older than you. So, winning that first championship, there's nothing like winning that first championship. Obviously, the second year was amazing, winning it, but it's never boring to win a championship. But when you do it for the first time, the feeling, the high, the accomplishment, there's nothing that can compare to 2006 winning the championship.
So after playing for the Oregon State Beavers, you got drafted in 2007 by the Chicago Cubs. Took you a few years to get up to the majors in 2010. But really, what was it like to suit up in a professional baseball uniform, minor league or major leagues, considering that we are in a minor league ballpark? We're seeing these guys play up from the Arizona League and the Dominican Summer League for the first time. What was it like for you to play in a professional baseball uniform in the Cubs organization?
Yeah, I actually, I played the first level I played at was at Des Moines, Iowa, and I think that's low A, which is what this is, right?
Short season A. Yeah.
This is short season.
Yeah.
I think that might be whatever. So, so I did play some time at this level, and there's some big differences in my experience to a lot of the players that came from the Dominican Winter Leagues and that graduated through those Arizona leagues and stuff. Coming out of college, coming out of a D1 school like Oregon State, you're very polished compared to a lot of the players that you see in your first spring training. Now you walk out there and there's 200 of them. So you really realize if you believe in yourself or not right away. But what I will say is the game is different. Friday nights in college, D1, is very competitive. And I feel like that's kind of like a double A, triple A Friday night in college. So for me, it was kind of more, the game slowed down a little bit, but it was more for me learning how to hit with a wood bat. That was my experience at this level of the kids that are here at the Volcanoes, team. And, so the experience is different for everyone depending on where you come from. I mean, you start playing with guys that are from the Dominican, Cuba. I had an Italian teammate, and you really get diversified, and you realize just how hard it's going to be. All the players in the world are trying to do what you're doing. So, but you just have to work. You just work hard, and that was something that I did. I was first to the field, last to leave every time. I would turn on my phone light in the batting cage afterwards on the road and sneak into their batting cages and hit. And, those are things I did that would help my confidence. Without those things, I wouldn't have had it. So, minor league baseball is a grind, but, there's still that 3% chance you're going to make it. So everybody's, they gotta stay positive, and, the mental side of the game definitely changes everything.
And after spending a few years in the minor leagues, what was it like suiting up in a Major League Baseball uniform for the Chicago Cubs back in 2010?
Yeah, I mean, the first time you walk into a big league stadium as a player, it's definitely something different. I'll never forget, I got called up in Chicago, was in San Francisco, and that taxi ride I took from the airport to the field, I'll just never forget that ride. It was like the longest taxi ride of my life. I mean, you're sitting there, and in the distance there's the water, and you can see the stadium, and you're like, that's where I'm going, and it's that feeling, that moment, I'll never forget. And I was a shortstop my whole career, my whole life. So then, of course, we're playing in San Francisco, first game ever, ninth inning. They decide to put me in as a defensive replacement. And they put me at second base. And I'd been a shortstop my whole life. So it's like base hit, walk, whatever. Bases are loaded now. And we need a double play. And I'm playing a position that I never practiced. I'm playing second base. So how am I going to turn this double play? I was so scared that, I wanted the ball at least hit to me so I can just feed it. But if I was having to turn a double play, I mean, I've turned a million double plays from shortstop, and now from second base, now that I became a second baseman. But before that, without the million reps as an athlete, you're not confident. It's like, why is Bubba Watson good at golf? The guy's been doing it since he was a kid. He has a million rounds under his belt. He's had every shot. I hadn't had every shot at second base, and that was the most scared I think I've ever been on a baseball field. And I don't like to admit it, but I'm pretty sure I was hoping that they hit a walk-off so that I didn't even have to touch the ball. And that's exactly what happened. Unfortunately, we lost, but luckily I didn't blow it. We just lost the game. So, baseball's a funny game like that. All of a sudden you play one position your whole life. Then you get to the big leagues and it's like, hey, third baseman got hurt. Can you play third? You say, hell yeah, I can play third, even though you've never done it before and you're a little bit nervous about it. But, opportunity only comes, here and there. So you kind of have to jump on those.
After playing for the Chicago Cubs, you played with a couple of more teams, the LA Dodgers and the Toronto Blue Jays. What is your most memorable moment playing for a major league team? I know I asked you during your time with Oregon State, but what is the most memorable one playing on the show?
I'll give you a couple. I'll give you just one from each team. So with Chicago, 2012 was my most memorable year. It was my Gold Glove year. I had the consecutive airless streak. I hit a walk-off home run in 2012. A lot of things that are memorable happened in 2012. I think just that year was special. Hitting that home run and I don't think I've ever even hit a walk-off home run before that in my life. Little league and stuff that just never happens, and then with the Dodgers, I would say the most memorable part of that was just the people you meet in LA is crazy. I mean, we had Manny Pacquiao come through the clubhouse and, but the problem with it is every day there's someone new at your batting practice with their camera crew. It's like it's freaking LA. So, it was a little bit much, but that was memorable for me was, seeing Jason Bateman right above your dugout and like waving to him and he's like, oh, hey, so stuff like that was memorable in LA, along with the friendships I made there. But, and then Toronto, obviously, getting to start some games in the ALCS against Cleveland, that year, 2016 was great, to be on all those losing teams in Chicago and, to finally get to the postseason with LA, get to the postseason with Toronto, man, it was pretty special. And, they say that postseason experience is important. And I never quite understood why until we got there. And in my first cup of coffee in postseason play, you realize, you get paid and people remember you for your regular season and all this, but, you become something special in the postseason if you do well and you play well, and all that's on your shoulders, and that, and it's the biggest games you ever played in your life. So it definitely takes some time to get comfortable, and I can see how postseason experience is important now.
What have you done since you've retired from playing baseball?
Well, I got to know my daughters. I have 3 daughters, so I thought I knew them before. But you're on the road 8 months out of the year. It's been nice to get to see them every day. So I do that, and I'm working with the Portland Darwin Project, trying to bring a team to Portland, Major League Baseball team here. That's going well. I'm a chief baseball advisor in the group and in the investing group as well. But, so we have big hopes for that. But besides that, I've been golfing a lot, and going to get my arm taken care of and see if my arm heals up, then I will, I might give it another go. It's been nice to come home. I think it was part of my journey to come home and get to know my kids a little better and spend time here, and release the guilt of being away from your family. But they want me to go back. They're like, we miss traveling. And I'm like, well, I'm home to be with you guys. That's why I stopped. My arm was screwed up, but I also stepped away because, man, I needed to be with you guys. And now they're like, we miss all this and that. And so if my arm heals up fine, and then I'll consider it again. And if not, then, we'll move into something else, maybe pursuing managing someday.